Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LX777. What a wonderful Saturday, June the 20th. Beautiful time of the year. Beautiful time of the year. I tell you what, one of the one of the most special people ever was born around this time of year. And I'll have to let you know that I'm currently appreciating my birthday season. Absolutely. Now, it wasn't all sweet. There was a lot of pain involved. But where we are today is a very nice place. So for those of you who are tuning in or catching the replay, I appreciate you being here. And we are continuing on Dion Fortune's The Circuit of Force, the chapter on sexual ethics in occultism. The Circuit of Force, Part 10, February 1940. Can you believe it? 1940. Peace and greetings to all my friends. Thank you for being here. Okay. It's been a little while, hasn't it? So listen, I'm going to show off my birthday gift a couple of times, so don't get too upset about it. You know what I'm saying? I got to shine. I got to bling every now and then. You know what I'm saying? With the Cartier diamonds. Shout out to my cousin for that awesome black diamond gift. Straight up like that. But in any case, let's get with it. Emperor Rex, peace and greetings. I am that I am, peace and welcome. Tian Pomeroy, thank you very much. Peace to you. Peace to you, beautiful. Joy Empress, peace and welcome. Louie, my friend, peace and welcome. Hope you're having a good night. Honey Brown, peace. Good to see you always. Yes, it most certainly was my birthday. I don't celebrate my birthday on one day. I celebrate it for like 2 weeks. But yeah, let's get to it. Sexual ethics in occultism. Circuit of Force, Part 10, February 1940, Dion Fortune. Zero the hero. Now the party can officially start. Peace to you, my friend. Mathra, welcome. DJ Seti Wise, man, listen, I remember your name from the Facebook days. Good to have you back, my friend. Peace. Let's get to it. It is impossible to deal with the subject of magnetic force without relating it to the question of sexual ethics. Big deal. The basic magnetic force, the energy that manifests in the Muladhara lotus, we know that's the root chakra, right? The energy that manifests in the Muladhara lotus turns into sex force at its first transmutation. And it is no use blinking this fact. It is equally true, however, that its next transmutation is into the golden solar force of the subjective Tifereth. Jesus Christ. Beyond this come the higher magnetic aspects, which we will not concern ourselves with at the moment, as they give rise to no controversies. In considering the question of the transmutation of the force from Makuth to Yesod, the moon sex center, and from Yesod to Tifereth, we shall inevitably deal with the force in accordance with our sexual ethics. Of these, there are two types, the ascetic and the pagan. You know, the ascetic is like a monk type person, and the pagan, they say, is someone who is just wild and free with nature and all that. It will be observed, firstly, that I do not contrast the terms Christian and pagan because the ascetic ideal is not solely Christian. Zoroastrianism and Buddhism are both ascetic faiths, and there are ascetic sects in Hinduism and Mohammedanism. It will also be observed that I use the ill reputed word pagan to represent the contrasting viewpoint to the ascetic. This is because the true meaning of the word refers to nature worship or pantheism, right? So whenever you hear pagan, that's really what it's talking about. This is because the true meaning of the word refers to nature worship or pantheism and means one who remains faithful to the old gods, right there. Unless we can rise above the blinding influence of racial custom and personal habit and seek truth at its source, we shall move in circles, arriving nowhere. We are all too apt to start with certain premises concerning good and evil, right and wrong, moral and immoral, and entirely fail to realize that these, as we know them, were not handed over by God to man, engraved on tablets of stone. Pantheism, right? They have been formulated out of a mixed mass of superstition and practical experience. In some things, practical experience is given a hearing. In others, all is swamped in a morass of superstition. We see this plainly when we observe the social customs of people with cultures that differ so wildly from our own that we are free from all association of ideas in judging them. But we are quite unable to see the irrationality in our own social codes, nor the influence that sheer superstition exerts over us. Joy Empress says, "Oh, they're talking about the freak nasty and magic. How fun!" It's inseparable. It really is. It's inseparable. I mean, you got to get your mind in a certain kind of place where it makes balanced sense. But everything in the human experience is also magical and spiritual. Again, if you're able to frame it correctly. Framestar Films, peace and greetings, my friend. Good to see you. Zero says there is a symbolism of Rahu and Ketu. Great observation, Zero. Great observation, right? Because we talk about the ascetic and the pagan. That's Rahu and Ketu for sure. For sure. Joy Empress says, wait, so the Christian God isn't considered an old God as well? No, I've never seen the Christian God considered as an old God. When we say old God, we're talking about long time ago. Let's keep it real. The Christian God is relatively new to the scene. The God of the Bible is relatively new to the scene. 5008, peace and greetings. Peace and greetings. But yeah, the Christian God is brand new. Um, Hell, Jesus is probably the brand newest. But Yahweh, you know, you can do your research. Our sexual ethics are profoundly influenced by two things. Firstly, by certain primitive concepts concerning the magical influences associated with the sexual forces, beliefs, which are pure folklore and superstition, and are but a debased and ignorant echo of the true esoteric teaching on this all important subject. And secondly, by the old laws concerning the inheritance of property, laws that came to an end in England with the passing of the Married Women's Property Act. These two influences have played a far greater part than we realize in the molding of our ideas on the subject of sexual morality. Finally, we have to consider the third point, the apex of the ethical triangle. My Kabbalah people, what's the ethical triangle? I'm going to give you a minute. What is the ethical triangle? If you don't know, now you know. 5008 says, may I ask you who the author of this book is? Absolutely. It's right here. Dion Fortune. Bling, bling. Okay. So the ethical triangle, you see it right here. Geburah, Chesed, and Tifereth. That is the ethical triangle. This is the higher self, the soul, so to speak. The connection between these three energies is what is referred to in Dion Fortune's pantheology as the ethical triangle. Check. There we go. There we go. I know somebody studied it. There you go, Zero. Zero the hero. Nice. I see the name change. Alkalinity Light. Peace and welcome. Peace and welcome. Okay, so yeah, this is what she said. Finally, we have to consider the third point, the apex. And by the way, the apex is Tifereth, right? The heart chakra, the sun, the solar force, the center of the entire tree. The apex of the ethical triangle, the view that the flesh warreth against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh, which is a plain spoken statement of the ascetic viewpoint. So when you think about the word ascetic, right, you got to think about these monks who forsake regular life, right? They go and they live in the ashram, they don their robes, they shave their heads, and they dedicate their entire time and energy to keeping up with the temple and serving the God that they are serving. 100% spiritual life. That's the ascetic. So when you see that Bible verse that talks about how the flesh is at war with the spirit and the spirit is at war with the flesh, that's what it's talking about. That's what it's talking about. So remember, she said the polarity between the ascetic, which is the holy monk, and then the pagan, the person who is extremely focused on the material, not materialistic. We're not talking good versus bad here. That's one thing you got to understand. In our culture, we're very focused on good versus evil, but that was a tactic to sell things. In truth, polarity has nothing to do with morality. It's just about opposites. It's just about differences, balance. So the ascetic and the pagan, we've got one that's looking up and one that's looking down. That's it. Neither of them is good or evil. The ascetic is looking up. The pagan is looking down, worshiping nature. The ascetic is looking up, giving up his whole life to focus on God. My gnosis in the building. Peace and greetings. Peace and greetings to my fellow big forehead God. Peace, peace. Listen, if you haven't subscribed to my Gnosis's channel, you might want to do yourself the favor and go ahead and subscribe to my Gnosis. My Gnosis is dropping straight Gnosis constantly, consistently. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, I highly recommend that you go ahead and do so. But y'all already know who he is. Joy Empress says, I don't know why, but Tifereth is my favorite sphere. That sounds weird, I guess. I wouldn't say it sounds weird. I mean, if any sphere would be anyone's favorite, it would have to be Tifereth. Tifereth is the one sphere that actually has a vested interest in your development. In other words, Tifereth is the only sphere that cares about you specifically. That is the sphere of your higher self. Really, you know, and I have my complex viewpoint on this, and I don't see the individual person on the tree. But if we had to locate where you would be, it would have to be Tifereth, if at all. But yeah, it doesn't sound weird. In fact, that's right on brand. Right on brand. Louis says looking at things from a good and evil viewpoint is a very limited perspective. Exactly. Because life is not black and white. Never has been, never will be. Everything can be useful and appropriate if you can just figure out how to make it fit. If this viewpoint were taken seriously in all its implications, we should settle the conflict promptly and permanently by the only effectual method: suicide. Oh my, Dion Fortune. Let's run that back. Because we're talking about the ascetic, right? And remember, I said the ascetic is focused on looking up at God. The pagan is focused on looking down at nature, right? Finally, we have to consider the third point, the apex of the ethical triangle, the view that the flesh warreth against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh. The Bible says the spirit is at war with the flesh and the flesh is at war with the spirit, which is a plain spoken statement of the ascetic viewpoint. If this viewpoint were taken seriously in all its implications, right, if we were to take this thing literally, we should settle the conflict promptly and permanently by the only effectual method: suicide. Boom. But we do not do this, for those saints have dealt with the flesh in such manner that they were reported to look like roots of trees. Most illogically, ascetics stop short at suicide and propound a code of compromise. Because really, when you're facing the gun, facing the knife, you're not going to go through with it. So we compromise, right? When you're at the ledge of the unknown and the pressure is on and you're tested, you know good and goddamn well you're going to make that compromise. It is, of course, true that if the flesh is allowed to get out of hand, it will not only war against the spirit, but against its own existence by overindulgence. Now, see, that's where we default: overindulgence. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of spiritual people have a tendency to overindulge. It is an odd fact that saints live longer than rakes. An asceticism of self-discipline, there must be an asceticism of self-discipline there must be if the flesh is to be kept in working order and the body rendered a tolerable habituation. But that man should take into his head to remake God's handiwork according to his own ideas is not only blasphemous, but impractical. The ascetic methods do not solve the sex problem. They merely diagnose the sex life. And the distorted forces appear in all manner of pathological forms. It is not possible to adventure into the deeper issues of occultism unless one is prepared to recognize that conventional ethics are blind leaders to the blind. To say this is not to abrogate ethics, but to face the fact that conventional ethics need overhauling. Overhauling. Zero the Hero says that's before enlightenment. That's before enlightenment, you chop the wood and carry the water. And after enlightenment, you chop the wood and carry the water. That's the discipline of simplicity. But the other pole is unbalanced. Right. Right on. Dr. Lakeith, peace, my friend. Peace. Good to have you. Face the fact that conventional ethics need overhauling. Anybody who regards sex as evil or is in any way afraid of it or self-conscious about it, had better leave occultism alone, for it is only through a perfectly naturalistic attitude towards the giving of life that life force can be handled Let it never be forgotten that there is no such thing as sex force per se, but that it is simply the life force on a particular level, and that through this level the force must pass every time it rises and descends on the planes. Now, let me talk about that just real quick. People talk about sex magic and sexual energy and all this other stuff. There really isn't a such thing as sex force or sex energy, right? There is energy, and it flows through levels and layers. So you got to think almost like if you have a big cup full of ice and you pour your drink into it, the drink is at the bottom and it's slowly rising up through all the different ice cubes until it gets to the top. So it's passing through these different layers of ice, but it's still the drink. Likewise, you've got this energy that you can call it whatever you want to call it. Some people have called it orgone energy or loosh, or I mean, it's a million different words for this prana. But what happens is, as it naturally fills and depletes from you, it has to go through different chambers, different levels, just like the water rises up through the ice. The very first level is the root chakra level. The second is the sacral chakra level. So as whenever you feel yourself getting naturally aroused, like nothing directly caused it and it's just happening, that's a sign that you are filling up with prana and filling up with this type of energy. But see, the first thing that the human being wants to do is to go out and deplete that energy in a sexual experience, whether it's by yourself or someone else. Doesn't matter. What I would recommend that you at least try one time is let that energy continue to fill and channel it into something else. Then you'll see what's happening here. Joy Empress says, isn't the creator having sex all the time anyway? Absolutely. And when you think about this, Joy Empress, there's nothing else but sex. Like that's what existence is. That's what existence is. It's a sexual act that is perpetuated infinitely. Whether that's on the physical plane, the mental plane, the energetic plane, etc., etc. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Louis says Tantra. Yeah, and that's what the art of Tantra is, right? Channeling this energy. Ojas, right? Ojas, right? Zero says, there it is. Regulate the nervous system to be able to use as much as possible energy in the best, useful, and appropriate way. That's all. It's not about good versus evil. It's about, is what you're doing useful and appropriate to your goals? And you know the answer to that. DJ Seti Wise says, why are these so-called spiritualists going crazy then? Humans, man. Humans. They came into the game crazy. That's why. They came into the they came into the game crazy. That's why. Like I said, when you fill up that cup of water, that cup of ice with water, there's nothing in that cup but water and ice. So when you fill a person up with this type of energy, there's nothing but what they already are. As I've said a million times, magic doesn't make you crazy. Spirituality don't make you crazy. You brought the crazy with you, right? When people go crazy from working with black magic or whatever, the magic didn't do that to them. They were already like that. They just now have an opportunity to express it. Now, and while that sounds funny, what I'm also saying is that this is why shadow work is so important. This is why learning how to regulate your nervous system is so important. This is why know thyself is so important. It's not a crime to be crazy. It's not a spiritual crime to be mentally ill. The thing is, you just have a challenge that must be overcome. You recognize what's happening within you, within your mental faculty, within your emotional faculty, and you learn how to deal with it, right? You learn how to regulate it. You learn how to balance it and harmonize it. There's no excuse to be a piece of shit. But many of us have come here with different challenges. That doesn't mean that we are blocked. That doesn't mean that we can't access, you know what I'm saying? We can't access gnosis, that we can't access the highest levels. Yes, you can. Everybody can. I don't care what your therapist or your doctor or your parents or nobody says. It just means you got work to do. That's all. You can come into this game depressed. You can come into this game, uh, with any other level of challenge. That just means you identify what your challenge is and you start to learn how to harmonize it. But for them other folks, I can't speak for them. All I can say is they're not doing the work like they say they are. And I'll stand on that because I've been doing the work. And you don't see me in the middle of the highway in my drawers talking about I'm the reincarnation of the Galactic Empire, Imhotep. God bless everybody who brought, uh, you know, substance to the work. I'm not talking shit about nobody in specific. Anyway, Joy Empress says, I have a book called Tao Tantric Arts for Women by Mink DeVos. She talks about using massage, qigong, and healing sounds to heal yourself. It's a great book with a lot of exercises. Tantric Arts for Women. Tantric Arts for Women. I could imagine it could apply to men too if we tried. Magic enhances what you already are. Facts. Facts. Zero says sex is a function, not a feeling. It's better to have sex with the infinite than everything else because that energy is flowing in the best and I think the already way to flow, as you were saying, Trev. We all have it, but remembering and relearning. Absolutely. Absolutely. All things are possible if you can stretch your mind to accept it, to receive it. But I can't speak on it too much because I think that my views are probably a little bit too out there. I recognize that sex and gender are a real thing, but I literally don't see it anymore. Like, I see the human being almost like an earthworm. We're a default being, and you can literally choose what direction you want to use your energy, but it's the same thing. You're either electric or magnetic. There's no solid, stiff regulation. It just is, man. And it depends on the experience, on the moment. But I digress. WVT, peace, peace. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Louis says you used to be on the highway doing all that though. Ah, that wasn't me. That might have been somebody else. That might have been Travis Magnus, but it wasn't Travis Magus. You won't catch me out there. I am Imhotep the fifth, and I'm here to reveal the true cosmic doctrine to all those who can receive. Let me stop. Let me stop. Because it's going to sound like I'm hating if I keep going. I'm not hating. I'm just making an example. Golly, boy. Some crazy things have happened in the past, man. I am the creator. All right, all right. Back to it. Back to it. Where we at? Okay, yeah, yeah. So we were talking about the fact that this energy naturally rises up your chakra points, right? And think about this. It rises up from your root chakra to your sexual chakra, and if you let it, it'll continue to your energy center and then to the heart chakra. But let's keep it real. Most everybody, most all of us expend that energy. We deplete that energy we get rid of that energy. By the time it hits the sexual chakra, right? We just get rid of it. We don't allow it to continue to flow up the chakra points. But that's what I'm saying. You don't have to do it all the time, but just try it one time so you can prove it to yourself, so that you can see for yourself. If you let that horny energy keep escalating up to your stomach chakra, your energy center, and then to your heart chakra, you're going to see that it transforms into something else. It's going to transform into something. And yeah, you're not going to do it every time, but I'm telling you, I'm suggesting to you, just test it once, just so that you can see for yourself. This does not mean that every magical act must culminate in orgasm. Far from it. Orgasm is the earthing of the force, its expenditure like a flash of lightning. There is no force available for magic immediately after orgasm. There is no force available for magic immediately after orgasm. And in magic, rightly worked, there will be no force available for orgasm either if all is restored to equilibrium, as it should be, at the end of the operation. A magical rite, properly worked, leaves the operators in the same harmonized state that follows coitus, sex. And magic can be used as a most effectual and satisfying form of sublimation, not because it deteriorates into orgy, but because it rises on the planes. There are rituals in black magic in which the sexual forces are deliberately stimulated through the imagination. There are exponents of unnatural methods whose names are well known in occult circles, and also it may be said to the police. Oh my. The information I have gathered is, I am afraid, much too startling for publication in these pages, because I lay the facts of sex in relation to occultism frankly before my readers. It must not be thought that I advocate these practices. Black magic takes place when a knowledge of the magnetic force is deliberately exploited in an unnatural manner. It is exceedingly necessary that anyone who is making a serious study of yoga and magnetic forces, especially if practical experimentation is included in their research, and it is hardly worthy to be considered serious if it is not, should have a thorough understanding of the relationship between magnetism and sex. Magnetism and sex. In order to perform practical occult work, it is necessary to have magnetic force in strong concentration and under perfect control. I had to let that marinate for a minute. Zero says, I remember months of not doing anything, absolutely anything. Even don't see amazing beauty of the femininity in random media. I closed my eyes and man, my astral went crazy in dreams and the plots of dreams. And even in the waking state, everything felt different. Yeah, man. Yeah. The more that you experiment with this, you'll see that there's a clear difference from abstaining from orgasm and indulging. You'll see there's a clear difference. It's not about right versus wrong. It's about learning how to regulate energy. See, people often frame it as a good thing or a bad thing, or you're supposed to or you're not supposed to. But the way that I'm framing it is, if you just test it out, you'll start to learn that energy has feeling, energy has flavor. Or should I say, you perceive energy in different flavors, you perceive energy in different feelings. And if you allow that energy to circulate and culminate, you will see that there is a difference in your entire well being. Absolutely. DJ Steady Wise says, definitely doing the magnetism. Oh, so you doing the magnetism? Is that what it is? Absolutely. Rawest spiritual goddess says, "Are you vegan for ethical or other beings? We share thus realm with the karma associated not only that the innocent, highly profound spirits, the sweet animals. No one is fully awake without being vegan." That's some very strict standards you have there, but I can see where you're coming from. I can respect it. I can put some respect on the name. Louis says, "I need to stop busting so much." Like you said long ago, Travis, orgasm is hard to give up. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true. But you know what I'm saying? Like, be be realistic with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are our human bodies are animals. And just like any animal, a dog, a cat, a chicken, a cow, it has to be trained. And if you've trained it to do something a lot, it's going to be very difficult to drastically shift that training. So, gradually, and use rewards, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't have to be a forever thing. It could be a seasonal thing. Like, hey, for the next month, for the next 4 weeks, 6 week, whatever. Just for experimentation, for scientific purposes. He says, "Real talk. I love women, but I gotta stop." I understand, my friend. I understand. I understand. But hey, one thing I've learned is that there are other ways to love women and to show that love. It doesn't have to always be in one type of way. It could be many different ways. In fact, that's part of the fun of human relations. Like, in general, humans are annoying and obnoxious, but in specific, you'll find some people who, you know, fulfill you in different ways, not just physical, emotional. Like, I have some female friends who deeply fulfill me, um, in emotional ways and mental ways that I don't get from anywhere else. And that's something that I had to learn within the past 4 years, 4 or 5 years. But you already know this. This ain't nothing new. I'm not telling you something that you've never heard before. Uh oh. Is my internet out? Testing, testing. One, two. Is my internet out? I've been having some trouble with my router. Let me know if you can still hear me. And you don't stop. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go. everywhere I go. All right, so we're still good. Lenny Alderdice, peace and greetings. Peace and greetings. Fantastic topic. We should have more discussions on this subject, honestly. Honestly. Where are we at? So we talked about orgasm as the earthing of the force. We talked about these unnatural methods known by the police, Aleister Crowley and those associated. You know that's what she's sneak dissing, right? Okay. In order to perform practical occult work, it is necessary to have magnetic force in strong concentration and under perfect control. And the raw material out of which the higher magnetic forces are sublimated is sexual energy. Let me run that back because there's a gym in there. And there's a Gemini. In order to perform practical occult work, it is necessary to have magnetic force in strong concentration. Now, pause right there. Is magnetic force physical? Is it something that you can grab and touch and hold and keep in a box? Is magnetic force something that you can keep in your hands and put it in the closet or put it on a shelf? This is an important question. I'm asking you this for a reason. Let me read it again. In order to perform practical occult work, and practical means that everyday type. Practical means all the time. Practical means your daily run-of-the-mill ritual. In order to perform practical occult work, it is necessary to have magnetic force in strong concentration and under perfect control. And the raw material out of which the higher magnetic forces are sublimated is sexual energy. You get why I say that? Because it doesn't matter what candle you use. It doesn't matter what book you buy or what robe or what the fuck ever you purchase off of Amazon. We're dealing with something subjective, not objective, which means you need to focus your mind. Your mind becomes the channel. So it's nothing physical. Do you understand that? I got to make that point. I got to make that point because a large percentage of so-called spiritual people on the internet always default to spiritual stuff, and they think it has to do with something physical that you can have or touch, right? Talk about your third eye being the actual pineal gland. At this level of conversation, we're not dealing with anything objective. It's all subjective. You want to know the beauty of that? The beauty of that means no matter what you're going through in life, no matter how fucked up your situation is or how awesome your situation is, you can always tap in. You can always tap in, but you got to get your mind right. The raw material out of which the higher magnetic forces are sublimated is sexual energy. It is for this reason that only persons of vital and dynamic temperament can work magic. So you got to be a little bit eccentric, right? We talked about crazy earlier, right? We talked about crazy a few minutes ago. You got to be a little bit eccentric. Fuck it, I know who I am. I already know me. I'm not regular or normal, and I've accepted that, and I'm not trying to be. You got to be a little bit strange to be able to handle this type of work. You got to be. It is for this reason that only persons of vital and dynamic temperament can work magic. But it is equally true that only persons whose sex life, though vigorous, is perfectly controlled and harmonized can work magic for long without going all to pieces. So you see that there's more parts to it too. It's okay. So when she says sex life, she's not talking about like, I don't know, man. What she's saying is that it must be structured. There's got to be a system to what you're doing with your energy and with yourself. You're not just out here like everybody else. I'm trying to think of a good metaphor without being too crude. But I can sense that you understand what I'm saying right now. It's got to make sense. It's got to make sense. Once again, it's not about good or evil. It's got to be structured. It's got to have some type of order to it, right? Even if it's just you. There we go. Zero says magical hygiene. That's what we're talking about. There are many ways of harmonizing the sex life in addition to the crude methods of repression and promiscuity. Look at those two polar opposites: repression and promiscuity. Someone who denies themselves sex and someone who freely gives it at any and every opportunity. Two polar opposites, which are crude methods. They are unregulated. There are many ways of harmonizing the sex life in addition to the crude methods of repression and promiscuity, which are often considered to be the only alternatives. If the appetite for food were indulged or denied with the same ignorance and caprice as the appetite for sexual satisfaction, the chronic dyspepsia, I gotta look that up. Dyspepsia. I don't think I've heard that word before. Google, what is dyspepsia? Functional dyspepsia is a chronic indigestion condition with no identifiable cause, characterized by frequent stomach pain, bloating, and a feeling of fullness after eating. Indigestion? Is that what it means? Okay. Functional dyspepsia is a term used to describe a lingering upset stomach that has no obvious cause. Okay. Dyspepsia. Let's read that sentence again now that we've looked up that word. You gotta, if you're reading and you see a word that you don't know what it means, according to NLP, you will be better off stopping and looking up that word. Because if you continue, there's a blank spot in your brain that's it's going to be a thorn in the flesh, and it actually hinders your retention. So a habit that I've developed is anytime I see a word that I'm not familiar with, I go look it up, then I read it again to avoid that whole blank spot that will prevent me from the retention of the lesson. If the appetite for food were indulged or denied with the same ignorance and caprice as the appetite for sexual satisfaction, the chronic dyspepsia, right, indigestion with no identifiable cause, that resulted would soon produce a C3 nation. Carter 3. Carter 3 nation. We need to get at the facts and apply common sense in this matter and no longer allow our judgment and practice to be directed by clerics who if the looks of themselves and their wives were anything to go by, are no recommendation for their own theories. Will I get like you if I do as you advise? Well, damn. Is a very pertinent question to put to the official exponents of moral doctrine. Unless we regard sex as a sacred but not an unclean thing, we have no business in the temple of the mysteries, where the esoteric doctrine of sex and polarity is among the secrets of the higher degrees. Starline, peace and greetings. Peace and greetings. Mike's art, peace, peace, and welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Good to see you. You recently had a show with your art, didn't you? How did that go? Mm, testing, testing. One, two. I swear, man, my internet was perfectly fine. See, we got this new router that everybody got. The local internet provider sent it out to, but like we never installed it because I know better. A year later, we actually did install it, and I'm telling you, once a day the internet cuts out, random. Testing, testing. One, two. Are we here? Are we live? Can you hear me? Let me know in the chat if I'm back. Okay, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, like I was saying, the internet provider that we have, they sent us a new router, but I never hooked it up because I know how that shit goes. But like, when we did eventually hook it up, we've literally been experiencing outages like once a day, every day. And it always comes at stupid times, like when I'm in the middle of a fight in Fortnite or Arc Raiders, or it's never happened to me during a live stream or like a coaching call. This is the first time that it's cut out in a live stream. But anyways, be back. I appreciate y'all for still being here. Appreciate y'all for still being here. Okay. Um where we at? C3. Yeah. Carter 3. Uh yeah, so the mystery, yeah, these long ass sentences. We need to get at the facts and apply common sense in this matter, and no longer allow our judgment and practice to be directed by clerics who, if the looks of themselves and their wives or anything to go, that's cold as hell. Look at what she's saying. Let's get to the facts. Let's apply common sense, and let's not allow our judgment and our practice to be ruled by people who don't look like they're doing too good for themselves. Right? She said, don't let our practice be judged and directed by people who, if the looks of themselves and their wives, she brought the wives into it. You and your woman are anything to go by, are no recommendation for their own theories. Will I get like you if I do as you advise? That's a very pertinent question to put to the official exponents of moral doctrine. Unless we regard sex as a sacred but not an unclean thing, we have no business in the temple of the mysteries, where the esoteric doctrine of sex and polarity is among the secrets of the higher degrees. DJ City Wise says petty, right? You gotta love Dion Fortune, man. She'll throw it in there every now and then. She'll throw a little bit of pettiness in there now and then. She'll sneak diss you in a very respectable way. Very respectable way. But I mean, is she wrong? Is she lying? Did she tell a lie? Star Lion says you talking crazy like Smack DVD rap of beef days. Oh man. She ain't telling no lie. If you're looking up at somebody trying to tell you about how you should live your life and how you should think of sex and how you should do this, that, and the third, but the wife look raggedy, they look raggedy. You know what I'm saying? They struggling. They barely keeping it together. I don't know if I can take advice from you, because you don't look like your advice is helping you out very much. And that's just human nature, right? That's just human nature. I'm of the belief that knowledge is knowledge, no matter where it comes from, right? I've taken wisdom from a crackhead. You know what I'm saying? That's me, though. We talking about the general public. So I mean, it goes depending on how your mind is constructed. Mm. Smack DVD days. Starline says, by talking crazy, I mean she throwing subliminal shots. Smack DVD, if you know, you know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and my brother were talking about those the other day. Years ago. I was not present for that era, but I am familiar with what was happening. That was around the time frame when I went off into the Navy, so I didn't really get too much. I didn't get too immersed in the whole Smack DVD era, but I heard about it. A lot of good songs were produced in that era. All right. It has been my task at no inconsiderable risk to myself to give out much of these teachings. Oh, I have been attacked by those who would have kept them secret. For what motives save blind adherence to tradition and the advantage to personal prestige, I do not know. I have been censored and even calumniated. Calumniated. Gotta look it up. Calumniated. It looks familiar, but I can't think of a definition for calumniated. Calumniated. Transitive verb to make maliciously or knowingly false statements about someone. Okay. To be talking shit and be wrong. To accuse falsely and maliciously of a crime or an offense, of something disreputable. To slander, to libel, to slander, to defame, to vilify, to traduce, blacken. Okay, so that's what that word means. Let's read it again. It has been my task, at no inconsiderable risk to myself, to give out much of these teachings. I've been attacked by those who would have kept them secret. For what motives, save blind adherence to tradition and the advantage to personal prestige, I do not know. I have been censored and even calumniated. They was talking fake shit about me. Bad. They was talking bad about Dion Fortune by those whose viewpoint is different from mine. One party says that the teachings, though true and valuable, should be kept secret. The others say that they are untrue and dangerous. To the former, I would say that no one has the right to keep secret what he knows to be true and valuable. I stand by that. And that the leaves of the tree of knowledge are for the healing of the nations. I stand by that too. Look, no one has the right to keep something secret that you know to be true and valuable and can help and to heal someone. Why would you keep that secret? Why would you hide that? To the latter, I reply that what is untrue in these matters cannot be dangerous because if untrue, it is unworkable. And that right there too. If it's not true, then it don't work. So that's the thing with this magic stuff. Like, you don't have to just believe it because somebody says it. You go home and you try the shit yourself, and then you see, oh, it works, or nah, it didn't work. What is untrue cannot be dangerous, right? What is untrue cannot be dangerous because if it's untrue, it is unworkable. Well, Trav, you know they said the demiurge, man, the demiurge and the reptilians and the Galactic Federation and the Pleiadian and all this other stuff. If it's untrue, it's unworkable. If it's untrue, it's unworkable. That's why there's a lot of topics that you don't hear come out of my mouth. I only focus on what's workable. You hear me talk about mantras, right? Mantras. You hear me talk about meditation. Hmm? Golly, man. Whether it is wicked or not is a matter of opinion, right? And the only appeal can be to experience by their fruits ye shall know them. Another Bible verse, right? That's what Christ said. By their fruits ye shall know them. Don't worry about what is said. Look at that track record. Look at that track record. Look at the consistency. I mean, Had to switch that battery on. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go. Oh Lord, had that battery on hand, ready. Man, I'll tell you what. This little side story. So I've been hyping my son up about the shrimp of the devil, camarones a la diabla. I remember in like 2018 or so, I went to this Mexican restaurant and they had the shrimp of the devil, and that was like the spiciest dish for sure, the spiciest dish, man. And there was a season of time where I was like going around to all the restaurants that I could find, and I was looking for their spiciest dish. I was looking for the hottest hot sauce, and I found some, but that shrimp of the devil was so spicy, it left a deep impression. So I was telling my son, yeah, man, this summer we're gonna go to that same Mexican restaurant. We're gonna get that shrimp of the devil. So I've been working him up. I've been training him. Right? We've been cooking spicy dishes, and I've gradually made it more spicy, just to see, his tolerance. We made a couple of burritos. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third, and not anything that he didn't want to do. Right? He was all for it. It was an adventure. It became our own personal little mission. And finally, I made the spiciest dish that I could make, and he ate it with no problem. So my birthday came. I said, all right, for my birthday, this is what I want. We're going to go to this Mexican restaurant, and we're going to get the shrimp of the devil. Shrimp of the devil. Camarones a la diabla. Shrimp of the devil. Man, we got to that restaurant. We had the cute Mexican waitress with the accent and everything. You know what I'm saying? Ordered our shrimp of the devil. The manager came out to our table. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why, but he asked, like, if it's not spicy enough for you, I got some even spicier sauce. I said, listen, my friend, please bring that spicy sauce out. He brought a little cup, and you know it was spicy. It had the seeds in it and everything. It was like deep dark red with the pepper seeds in it. But that thing was so spicy, we wasn't even talking. We was just eating, just eyes watering, nose running. It was wonderful, man. It was perfect. It was everything that I planned on it. He was very happy. I was very happy. That was my Christmas gift that I highly appreciate for sure. The shrimp of the devil. You hear me? If you got a Mexican restaurant in your town, look up, and you like spicy food, look up camarones a la diabla, shrimp of Satan. The shrimp of Satan, boy. Woo, boy. That was a good time, man. That was a good time. DJ City Wise says, I'm a finder. I live in Little Mexico. Okay, yeah, yeah. Shrimp of the devil, man. Shrimp of the devil. I was so happy. I was so happy. That's of the devil. And I was pointing at the sauce. That's of the devil. That right there, that's of the devil. But anyways, that's a little side quest story. Side quest story. Last conference says, what book? Man, you got to buy it if you're gonna get it now. This is the Circuit of Force. It's in the title of the video. The first three words. The Circuit of Force. Sly Artist says child abuse. Nah, man, this is all consensual. I don't force nothing on nobody. That ain't my style. It's 7 billion people on this earth. Ain't no need to take advantage of nobody. 7 billion people on this earth. Ain't no need to take advantage of nobody. That's how I see it. Bert the lining, man. Listen, I ain't gonna speak on it, but that spice don't it travel through your system. I tell you that. Zero says, "Amazing, Trav. You love Mexican food. A beautiful share, Trav. I love you as an amazing birthday." Yeah, man, it was great. Like it really, really made my day, made my month, man. Devil shrimp, Satan shrimp, little Satan shrimp, Satan little shrimp. It was spicy as hell. DJ said he was. Says, "I'm gonna send you my quantum mechanics EP." All right, you gonna send it through the email or through what? I ain't really been on social media much the past week or so. Um, I need to get back on my stuff. I ain't been on YouTube either, obviously, but yeah, email might be the best. My nose says that's how that Nashville hot chicken do me. Dang, I heard about the Nashville hot, but I don't think I've tried Nashville hot. Is there is there a restaurant specifically that makes it uh in a way that you can recommend? By the way, so my brother was telling me that Bucky's, you guys have the biggest Bucky's, but we have the second biggest Bucky's. I thought that was random as hell. I say that because he works there, but y'all got the biggest Bucky's. We got the second biggest. Random insight. But anyways, let's get back to the text. Back to the text. 6 days in. Peace and greetings, my friend. Peace, peace. I hope you're staying consistent. I hope you're maintaining your frame. I hope you're doing the thing. I know you are. I know you are. Are you guys against sex magic? Um, I guess you'd have to define what that word means, right? What is sex magic? J Dog the God says, I had some homegrown habanero peppers in a burrito, and that shit fucked me up. And the Target needs to shit zero business into my system. Oh man, whew, that's a bad way. Hopefully you got it taken care of, man. My Minosa says, yeah, I've been to that Bucky's in your town on the way to ATL before. That shit is like a cult in Texas. Yeah, the only reason I brought that up is because I didn't realize how big a deal. I thought it was just another gas station type of thing. I've never been, but like I said, my brother works there. They pay pretty decently, and he's always telling me about the different people that come through. But then recently he told me like, yeah, we got the second biggest one, and I was like, no, that don't make no sense. But apparently, a cult. It's great, and look at what marketing can do, man. Look at what branding can do. Why are we in a cult over a damn gas station Walmart? He was telling me they don't sell no Rillos, they don't sell no Black and Milds. They keep to a certain standard. I found that funny. They got a certain customer base they're looking for, and a certain customer base they're not looking for. Fresh biscuit on the board. Louis says there's a spot down the street called Angry Chicken, and there's 3 levels of hotness. First level is hot as fuck. Oh man, that would be a dream. I would love to try level 3, just to try it. just to try it, man. I love me some spicy food. Mike's Heart says, I just stopped by there. I thought it was a grocery store. Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I've never actually physically stepped foot in there, so I don't know the magnitude. My brain thinks of like racetrack or I don't know, Circle K or some shit, but apparently it's much bigger and much more sophisticated than Circle K or racetrack. All right, Dion Fortune. Dion Fortune. What color are we on? Are we on purple? Yeah. All right, so no one has the right to keep secret what he knows to be true and valuable, and that the leaves of the tree of knowledge are for the healing of the nations. To the latter, I reply that what is untrue in these matters cannot be dangerous, because if untrue, it is unworkable. Whether it is wicked or not is a matter of your opinion, and the only appeal can be to experience. By their fruits ye shall know them. She know her Bible, don't she? If the fruits are a sane mind and a sound body, it is difficult to believe that the tree that bears them is evil. And that's true right there too, right? So if the result of your spiritual practice is a sane mind and a sound body, how can you tell me that's evil? How can you tell me that's of the devil? The experiences of choir boys in the field of Christian morality, of which by virtue of their office they have a close-up view, make significant reading, but the records have to be sought in the archives of psychopathology and the police courts. Dang, it was happening back then. 1940, 1940. Them priests was messing with them choir boys even back then. That sucks. Nature misused takes a terrible revenge, and the last word in these matters is with nature, not moral philosophy. Interesting. Okay. All right. Channels of sublimation. 6 days in, you just in time. I remember we had a discussion about that word sublimation. Sublimation. Do you remember that? Channels of sublimation. All right. All right. Let me know who's still with me. I see we got quite a few people in the chat. Let me know if you're still locked in. We're gonna do one more chapter tonight. It's kind of late, but I had to tap back in with y'all. I missed you last weekend. It was my birthday weekend. But I have to remember, it always seems longer for me than it does for y'all. You guys have a million things that you're doing all the time. Me, I only do this. So it seems like an eternity. But let me know. Tap in with the chat. Give me a unicorn emoji or give me something. Check in with me. Fuck with me. Everywhere I go. Y'all heard that new take it? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Channels of sublimation. DJ City Wise says, I'm on asexual now. They're throwing it at me, though. Oh, yeah. Welcome. 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 I had to think long and hard about that term, and I've come to realize that that is an accurate description of. I don't identify as anything. I don't play those games, but if I had to, then it would have to be that phrase there. Obviously. By the way, um, for those of you who were interested in my personal coaching, I'm still going through the application. So if I didn't get to you yet, I am still working my way through them. I should be getting through all of the emails throughout the next 2 days. So if you applied to my coaching, you'll get an email from me within between Sunday and Monday. So keep a lookout for that. And we'll have a little chat, a little 20-minute chat on Zoom if you're available, and see if it's a good fit. If not, no harm, no foul. But I want to take this opportunity to really get to know who I'm talking to, and see if we can work together on a closer level. Let's get to this next chapter. Channels of sublimation. I hope I have made my position in the matter of morality sufficiently clear for anyone to understand it who wishes to understand it. There will always be those who see things differently, but I hope we can agree to disagree and be content to be known by our fruits. There will also, unfortunately, always be those who read books with which they disagree in quest of ammunition for use against the authors. To try to disarm by explanation, in this case, is like flogging a dead donkey, and I shall not attempt the hopeless task. The interchange of magnetism is an exceedingly important thing and operates in every aspect of life. For the teacher, the organizer, the group leader, it is the factor which makes the difference between outstanding success and mediocrity. It also plays a part in our daily lives, quite apart from the sex relationship, far greater than is realized. And its lack affects the mental well being in exactly the same way as a qualitatively deficient diet affects the physical health. Bless me. Whatever aspect of character or consciousness is developed and capable of functioning must be permitted to function if a harmonious life pattern is to be maintained, just as a lactating female animal must nurse its young or suffer general constitutional disturbance and much discomfort. Peep that line, because something similar came to me in a channel many, many, many years ago. And the channel was something to the effect of every energy that is within you, no matter how small, must express itself. No exceptions. You can try to block it, try to fight it, but if it's a part of your being, it must express itself. Let me read this line again. She says, whatever aspect of character or consciousness is developed and capable of functioning must be permitted to function if a harmonious life pattern is to be maintained. So she gives a metaphor to explain that. Just as a lactating female animal must nurse its young or suffer general constitutional disturbance and much discomfort. And I don't know if you've ever had an experience with a lactating mother, but that milk has to come out. Otherwise, it causes pain. That milk has to come out. Otherwise, it causes discomfort. You understand that? Engorged. Engorged. Why? I just tried to make a simple point. You had to bring out the engorged. But yeah, same difference. We all, of course, have capacities for which our circumstances make no provision. And the more narrow our circumstances, the more starved are we in this respect. Fortunately for all of us, the full and obvious expression of our capacities on the physical plane is not necessary to maintain our life pattern. Sheesh. There is such a thing as sublimation, upon which great stress is laid in books upon psychotherapy and sex advice. Sublimation is a very real thing and a very important and far-reaching thing, but it has its limits of usefulness, and if pressed beyond them, becomes harmful. In order to understand its right use, it is necessary to understand its real nature, even at the cost of a considerable digression, for it is upon this understanding that the whole question of the control of magnetic force will be found to rest. The first factor in the case is the principle of the association of ideas, and the fact that these can become associated together quite irrationally if they should be present in the mind in juxtaposition at a moment of emotion. Emotion, if sufficiently strong, colors everything that is in consciousness when it is felt. We have all had experience of this and know how some place, some odor, some tune, perfectly innocuous in itself, can acquire a significance for us through its emotional associations. This capacity of the mind can be put to many uses, as I have pointed out when writing of ceremonial and symbolism. Y'all know that, right? You should know that. This is why I have Fruity Pebbles essential oil, right? Or certain smells or certain sounds or certain things in my peripheral vision. Because with an emotional connection, the subconscious mind begins connecting dots. Emotion, if sufficiently strong, colors everything that is in consciousness when it is felt. We all have had experience of this and know how some place, some odor, some tune, some perfectly innocuous they seem in itself can acquire a significance for us through its emotional associations. This capacity of the mind can be put to many uses, as I have pointed out when writing of ceremonial and symbolism, when it is to be deliberately utilized in the absence of spontaneous emotion. When it is to be deliberately utilized in the absence of spontaneous emotion, discernment has to be used in order to choose lines along which ideals will associate spontaneously because of their natural appeal to the imagination. So, when you're attempting to do this on purpose, i.e., invoking a spirit, i.e., performing a ritual, when it is to be deliberately utilized in the absence of spontaneous emotion, in other words, we have had those times when spontaneous emotion arises. And if you're more leaning towards the Orphic side, you immerse yourself in these spontaneous emotions. In other words, you might randomly get really sad, or you might randomly get really happy, or really excited, or really passionate, and you just go along with it and experience it and let it all out and then go back to normal. Some people block that and don't let it happen. But what she's saying here is when it is to be deliberately utilized on purpose without the spontaneous emotion popping up. When you're doing it this way, discernment has to be used in order to choose lines along which ideas will associate spontaneously because of their natural appeal to the imagination. In other words, you might not be able to predict exactly what's going to come, but you've been on this earth long enough with your ripe old age to know that certain thoughts and feelings will lead you to a certain state, right? You know, if you cut on that song, if you cut on that track, you know that your mind will start to shift and your mood will start to shift into a certain state. Now, you might not be able to predict what ideas will come from that, but you know that you're moving into a specific territory. That is ritual in essence. The same way that you know if you put on this track, you're going to feel some kind of way. And in feeling some kind of way, you'll have different thoughts and beliefs about reality. You can weaponize that. You can utilize that. You can harness that deliberately. That's what ritual is all about. You create a space, a container for yourself to be immersed in a certain kind of emotion, a certain kind of mind state, and you pull certain kind of ideas from that. Brainstorming. You've heard of brainstorming. If you've ever created art longer than just a few times, you already have this. If you're an artist right now, and I know you are, you've already got that space where you know how to get into the zone. And being in the zone, maybe every time it doesn't produce what you want, but you know that when you're in that zone, you're likely to pull something out of it. Like that's what we're talking about here. Does that make sense? Oh, does that make sense? Like I mentioned, I have certain fragrances and certain textures and sounds and colors and different things that I can put on in my environment, and I know that it will lead me to a place. I do it on purpose. And in fact, I regulate myself so much that I don't make room for any of like the negative type of emotions that would hinder my progress. But what I'm talking about right now is in the territory of elemental magic. This is what elemental magic actually is. You might wish to work with gnomes and sprites and fire entities and all that other stuff. But for what though? In truth, what elemental magic is harnessing your environment so that you create a feedback loop. You create a feedback loop that either strengthens and reinforces your state or shifts your state into something else. That's what it is. That's what the elementals do. And yes, when you get channels and when the entities speak to you, they're going to tell you, yeah, we can get into that, but I don't want to get too off track. You just have to remember that even though the spirits that you encounter may have a certain opinion or a certain feeling, you're the captain. You're the one who drives the ship. Your spirits don't have to agree with you. They don't have to agree with you. At the end of the like say for example, the president or a military commander or someone who's in charge and they have a lot of other people responsible for them or they're responsible for other people. If a spirit doesn't necessarily like what you're doing, that doesn't 100% of the time means you need to stop. If you're certain on your goal, if you're certain on the direction that you're moving into, sometimes you got to make a decision to say, hey, you know, I acknowledge that you may not agree with this, but this is what we're doing. So get with the program or get replaced. Now, to you, that might not sound relevant, but it's entirely relevant to what we're talking about right here. It's relevant because the elemental forces in your environment, if you're attempting to change and do something completely different than what you're used to doing, you will face resistance. If you're someone who is perceptive and you have clear audience and you have clairvoyance, you might hear or see the spirits saying, "Oh, you're going the wrong way," or "Oh, we don't like this," or "No, no, 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 no." You got to have the discernment to slice. Is this me talking to myself, or are these my habits and my environment resisting change? Let me know if that makes sense. Um, I know that that might not be relevant to a lot of people, but for some of you who are a little bit more advanced on your path, um, I just want to say that it is a very useful skill to develop, to be able to hear whether or not the frequencies that you're receiving are coming from your local central point or from your environment. That's what I'm saying. Either way, we're going to continue here. When it is to be deliberately utilized in the absence of spontaneous emotion, discernment has to be used in order to choose lines along which ideas will associate spontaneously because of their natural appeal to the imagination. For instance, football is so popular both as a spectacle and as a sport because it appeals to the combative instinct present in all males in varying degrees and permitted little expression in socialized and industrialized life. Music or art would be no adequate substitute for football because they make their appeal to another side of nature, another side of the nature. When a man is past the age for football, which is a young man's game, he will not turn to art as a substitute, but to similar but less strenuous forms of sport, passing from hockey to bowls as his years advance. And today we would play Fortnite or Arc Raiders or Call of Duty or 2K. You see that? Y'all love y'all 2K. Got to have it. Music and art satisfy the love of beauty, not the combative instinct. And the love of beauty is a vital factor in all sex feeling, save the most primitive. If you really cared, you could take that line and go a whole lot further with it, right? There's some people who are deeply invested in the combat instinct and they need to fight. They need to express combat. And there are others who need to express a love of beauty. Fuck it. I know who I am, right? I might do some combat for fun every now and then, but I'm a lover of beauty. I would rather spend the rest of my life expressing my love for beauty than going to war with some other dusty ass mofo. I would rather express my love for beauty. But anyways, different strokes for different folks. Nothing is better or worse. It's just the different types of energy that people have. Music or art would be no adequate substitute for football because they make their appeal to another side of the nature. When a man is past the age for football, which is a young man's game, he will not turn to art as a substitute, but to similar and less strenuous forms of sport, passing from hockey to bowls as his years advance. Music and art satisfy the love of beauty, but not the combative instinct. And love of beauty is a vital factor in all sex feeling, save the most primitive. Indeed, it is difficult to imagine a tribe so unevolved that some women should not be esteemed as more desirable than others on what passes with them for aesthetic grounds, quite apart from their value as beasts of burden. Yikes. Yikes. That's a culture I would want no part of. They don't care what the women look like. We just trying to make babies. No beauty required. No aesthetic required, no style required. In and out. It's a hard way, but that's also an extremely primitive way too, isn't it? And yes, these people still exist for sure. But again, it's like I said, different strokes for different folks. I am not a judge, nor do I have the desire to deal with humanity as a mass. The two main channels of sublimation of the sex instinct are art and religion. The two main channels of sublimation of the sex instinct are art and religion. I wish, I wish, I wish. It must be said of art, however, that though it is a means of sublimation in the psychological sense, it would hardly be thus classified by the conventional moralist, for its tendency is to widen the channel that it opens, and consequently to call into action an increased amount of life force. An increased amount of life force. All great artists in whatever medium have notoriously been great lovers. All great artists in whatever medium have notoriously been great lovers. This is probably due to the fact that the canons of art impose no inhibitions upon conduct. Religion, however, the great rival of art as a channel of sublimation, avails itself of the most rigorous taboos in order to concentrate the whole energy of the life in a single stream. Each has its contribution to make towards the good life. It is not good to call up more and more life force till the organism is drained and exhausted. The sensualist defeats his own needs. Nor is it good to let sex feelings spread unchecked and break all barriers, for it resembles in its action the stream we have already used as an illustration, and turns life into a muddy morass. But on the other hand, it is not good to dam and canalize any force, regardless of the laws of hydraulics. If the channel is made too narrow for the volume of the stream, it will overflow its banks. Philip Banks. Sublimation must be employed with wisdom, and it never will be so employed if we regard sex as a thing that is evil in itself and to be reduced at all cost to the smallest possible dimensions and entirely suppressed if possible. We must recognize in this great force not only a fundamental but a legitimate factor in the life pattern. And if it has to be denied its natural expression, must try to supply it with the best compensations we can. Nor must we do this in the spirit that regards such substitutes as a remedy for sin, but with an apology to nature for the natural rights that circumstances compel us to deny. The best form of civilization would be that which, while maintaining organized social life, does least violence to the natural instincts. So, to be in a reality where we appreciate the natural instincts that we have, the natural expressions, inclinations, desires, fears, but on top of that, a system designed for growth, stability, regulation. Wow. This is achieved by ample provision for play in the dual forms of sport and art. But however adequate may be the provision made by an enlightened society for these two activities, it is not enough for a man to have an outlet for their energies unless they also have some means of receiving a return flow of magnetism. And that right there is what this whole book is about. To also have a return flow of magnetism that shall recharge the battery. See, we often think about charging, but we don't think about recharging. We often think about giving, but do we think about replenishing? We fail to realize that we not only can give out our life force in a sublimated form, thus bypassing direct sexual activity, but can also receive a return flow of magnetism in a sublimated form, thus satisfying essential emotional and magnetic needs. Flirtation, friendship, hero worship all fulfill this condition and play an enormous part in the compensation of life's frustrations. Many a man or woman has been able to make an imperfect marriage workable and life endurable through the vicarious satisfactions obtained in the dance hall or the evening institute. And celibates of both sexes have found a leader and attraction so great that the lack of a mate was fully compensated. In other words, you can do it. If you want to be single, it doesn't have to be torture. Many a man or woman has been able to make an imperfect marriage workable and life endurable through the vicarious satisfactions obtained in the dance hall or the evening institute. And celibates of both sexes have found in a leader an attraction so great that the lack of a mate was well compensated. Such things are very real and render lives bearable that would otherwise be unbearable. But if left to the untutored guidance of chance, they are not always efficacious. If, however, we apply to them, firstly, a knowledge of psychology in order to understand the need, and secondly, a knowledge of yoga and magic in order to direct and supplement the subtle magnetic forces, which are the real key to the problem, we have a really valuable and practical contribution to make to one of the most baffling problems of civilization. The ancients had a method of dealing with sex force which has a profound psychological significance and could afford a valuable lessons to our modern psychotherapists. They made use of these forces in the temple rites. That force, which was not used in human mating, was given to the god or goddess. You hear that? Did you hear that? Or does it sound too crazy? Does it sound too wild? Does it sound too outlandish? Unbelievable? What do you mean by that? That force, which was not used in human mating, was given to the god or goddess. If you know, you know. It was done in crude ways that the civilized conscience could not tolerate. But there is a psychological truth underlying the proceeding. Listen, force can be put in circuit cosmically as well as personally. Force can be put in circuit cosmically as well as personally. Polarizing with the great Isis or the primitive Pan, as the case may be. And herein is a great esoteric truth for meditation. Some of y'all are at that level. Some of y'all are far from it. But honestly, you ain't never really dealing with anybody but Isis and Pan. You ain't really dealing with nobody but Shiva and Shakti. And if you acknowledge that and realize that in the field, You're going to see your dividends return in ways that they have not before. See, I'm not giving to you. I'm only returning to Shiva and Shakti. But we'll leave that for later. Force, thus directed, does not remain in the aura and decompose, as in the case of sensual fantasizing, but is drawn into the stream of the cosmic circuit. And from the archetypal being thus constructed, a ray of polarizing magnetism returns. This is a deep teaching, but it is also a practical truth. We're talking about some tantric stuff here, man. Some tantric stuff. In tantric sex, you visualize your partner as the god or the goddess, and you visualize yourself as the corresponding deity, and you perform a cosmic ritual. In that way, you take it beyond just personal experience and you make it a cosmic experience. Now, check this out. Here's what she said here, and this is what I learned from this book. And also, I learned this from Bobby Hemmett. You don't need a partner to do that. You can do that yourself, especially if you recognize that all of nature is the goddess. All of material existence is Prakriti. All of it. So every act and behavior is worship. Everything. Even eating food and going to the bathroom and taking a shower. Everything is worship of the goddess. Now, what would happen if you fix your mind to see it as such? What would change? Cosmic Puzzle Piece says, so is this saying that you can turn negative experience into magnetism? Well, I'm saying that, was there ever a negative experience? You can, cause see, like that's my whole thing, man. You've never heard me make no video. Here's how you protect yourself from witches cursing you and hexing you and sending bad magic to you. I understand that energy is energy, and if something's coming your way, you can convert it. So likewise, you asked, so is this saying that you can turn negative experience into magnetism? Absolutely. Absolutely. It is all a cosmic sexual dance. It's not a war or a battle or a fight. It is a give and a take, but it's up to you, the parameters of that give and take. It's up to you, the parameters of the give and take. It's easy, man. This stuff is easy. It's easy. It makes so much clear common sense to me. It's a dance. It's a flow. Like, you gotta understand, we make life so much more difficult than it actually is. We do, and you know that you do. Even in times of peace, we're some of us are looking for the danger, right? We're looking for the other shoe to fall off. We're looking for the catch, right? What's the catch? Man, just live, bro. Just live. Check out my birthday gift, man. My cousin got me this Cartier Black Diamond. I feel like a rapper, man. I feel like a rapper. You see that? I would have never expected this in a million years. But I tell you right now, man, it's money season. It's money season. Get your mind right, get your heart right, and expect good things to come your way. Expect good things to come your way. I'm not even a jewelry person at all. I don't care about jewelry. But it feels cool, right? It feels cool. Everybody's coming up, man. Everybody around me coming up. Everybody around me is coming up. People winning court cases, people getting better jobs, people getting happy and feeling good about themselves. And I see that happening for you if it hasn't already. I see it happening for you if it hasn't already. A lot of people are looking for Armageddon and they're looking for World War III and all this other dumb shit. But you know what I see? I see that life is changing, and a lot of people who have been waiting for goodness to show up in their lives are getting it now. That's what I'm seeing with my eyes, right? The internet will tell you that bad things are coming and people are getting hurt and it's a scary world out there. But what my eyes are showing me is that people are getting blessed. People are coming up. That's what my eyes are showing me. People around me are coming up. So I just want to check you. What are you seeing versus what are you believing? What are you seeing versus what are you believing? There's a lot of strange things happening right now, and it don't have to be all bad, man. Maintain your frame is what I say. Keep your mind right. Maintain your frame, even up to the last minute, because you never know. You never know. It. There might be somebody out there that you know what I'm saying. If you're in need of help, there might be somebody out there that you blessed years ago that you forgot about, but they never forgot about you, and they've just been waiting for a chance to come back and help you, just based on the fact that you helped them, right? There's a lot of wonderful things happening in the world today. Keep your mind focused. Stay confident. Stay positive. Framestar says, got offered the gig in the AI studio yesterday. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Stay focused, man. Whatever you're working on, whatever you're dreaming on, whatever you know what I'm saying, trying to manifest. Yeah, it might seem rough, might seem like it's not going to happen, whatever. Do what you know that needs to be done. Listen to your higher self, right? Follow that first incentive that made you do this in the first place. Stick with it. I'm telling you, we are in a rare opportunity right now. Without getting into the astrology and all that other stuff, now is the time to believe in yourself. Now, like right now, today, now is the time to really believe in yourself, to believe in your endeavors, and to try something new. All right. This has been a great book study. I miss you guys. We'll get back here and do this again. Got a lot on my plate right now, but once things get sorted, we should see some more talks like this. For sure, for sure. I'm always thinking about you. And looking forward to the next time. Like I said before, those of you who I haven't gotten to yet in the applications for the coaching, over the next 2 days, I'm going extra hard on responding to all the emails and getting back to everybody. So don't worry. And otherwise, man, like I said, maintain your frame. Stay focused on your work. Keep going. This is an opportune, victorious season right now. I don't care what nobody else is talking about. That's what I'm talking about. This is winter season, and you're a winner. All you have to do is believe in that and keep walking accordingly. I done seen impossible victories happen around me, and the people around me, friends and family, people I don't even really care about. Impossible victories. So that's a sign to me that the soil is fertile for this kind of thing. All right. Be good to yourself. Framestar says, happy birthday, by the way. Thank you, Framestar. Thank you. All I wanted was some good food, and that's what I got. And I got to share an experience with my son that I promised him. Now I'm going to cook him some spaghetti with meatballs. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. Thank you for your dedication to this work. Thank you for your contribution to this world. All of you are beautiful people. Thank you for what you bring. Thank you for who you are. Even if you're one of those who never comment, I see you with my magical eyes. Chicano42. Look, man, you got a new username every video. You got a new username every video, man. Peace. Peace to you, man. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well too. All right. Y'all have a good night. I'm out. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you. Peace. Bling, 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 bling.